tell me how the pandemic has impacted you as a musician.
So the last few years, I've done about 75 shows a year around the Cape. Um, Everything from Sunday brunches up at the Red Inn in Provincetown to special events like Taste of Chatham, Taste of the Town in Wellfleet, um, shows at the Harvest Gallery Wine Bar. We've played down at the Woods Hole Film Festival. So we've had a pretty broad stroke of places that we play during the course of the year. And after the middle of March, that all dried up. I've not played a live show since the middle of March. And of course, that means that income has gone away as well. So it's been a huge impact, and it doesn't look like anything is coming down the pike soon. You know, one of my major gigs is the Red Inn in Provincetown, and while some towns are opening up for live entertainment, like outside, Provincetown has basically banned all live entertainment inside and outside for the time being. So we're dead in the water there. We do have a concert coming up on July 12th. The Arts Foundation of Cape Cod does a summer series, a summer concert series. It's sponsored by TD Bank, and they're doing this virtually this year. And so many of the artists are taking advantage of the good graces of the Cape Cod Community Media Center and are going to be performing at the Media Center. And we're going to be streaming the concert, live online. So Media Center's got a great space. We can be socially distant from each other as musicians. There'll be no audience, and we'll be streaming it online. So we're going to be playing there on July 12th. It's going to be like a Sunday brunch at 11 a.m. So have your mimosas and Bloody Marys ready.
Yeah, that'll be great. We're really excited to be hosting that series this summer for TD Bank as well as the Arts Foundation. So you and I have talked though, Bert, that you have been able to connect with your fellow musicians on the Cape and actually jam with each other. How have you been able to do that?
So one of the challenges of playing together online is latency, which is when you, just now, for example, when I'm speaking, you're all actually hearing me a few milliseconds later than I'm actually speaking. And if you're trying to all play together as musicians online, that's an issue. So I can't play a note and then the drummer hears it and reacts to it a few milliseconds later, and then the bass player hears that a few milliseconds later. It sounds like we don't know what we're doing. Well, sometimes we sound that way anyway. But so there's a software platform that has, like Zoom, all of a sudden they've had to grow very, very fast. It's called JamKazam. And JamKazam is a way to minimize the latency between musicians. And with JamKazam, you can have a few musicians playing together live in real time in separate locations. There are some pretty stringent requirements of setting up JamKazam. You need to have, number one, you need to have a good internet connection. B, you need to have your computer physically wired to your modem. So you need an Ethernet cable that goes from your computer to the modem. Wi-Fi has its own additional latency that adds to that. So this has allowed musicians to get together, and some have taken more advantage of it than others. We've done a few sessions. I think Jay and I played together once with Scott, and had a couple sessions with Scott. Scott LaRiviere is my bass player, and with Scott and Liam Hogue, and that's gone pretty well. We've had a sax player once. It's certainly not like being together, but it's better than nothing at all. So that's certainly one area, where we've been able to do that.
So is this just to get together and jam and stay connected? Or do you think there's going to be a way for you all to make any money off of this?
I don't know. I mean, Jay, I think you've been following, the JamKazam route better than I have. But I'm I know that they've really done a lot of work to improve their platform over the last few months. It was sort of a open source. Hey, we're just trying this thing out. Back in March, and now all of a sudden they've had to grow very quickly and try and raise some money to provide um, some growth potential for them. Jay, do you want to talk a little bit about what they're up to and maybe what some of the potentials are?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. Um, yeah, they actually just did a brand new update the other day. And they've been around for a while, and I used them with the media center, and it was a collaboration with Cape Conservatory as well, where we did some distance learning. That was about 3 years ago. But because of the situation, like Bert was saying, they've really had an overload on their system, so they came back to developing it better. And the latest release, they did say they're really close to having a better zero latency situation, which really interacts between the application itself, between other users, and it's pretty extraordinary actually once you get on it. The amount of how it sounds if you're in headphones, at least anyways, as if you're in the studio with them, and there's really no latency.
No?
But it really depends on your internet connection and your audio interface. I've been consulting with a couple other bands as well, trying to get them online, and a lot of times it's between their audio interface and their internet connection or their router. But there's a lot of different things that they're making available with it now as well, so you can stream directly live from it to YouTube. You can do recording, screen share, so a lot of things that are they're trying to make them competitive with some of the other things like Zoom and StreamYard and other applications like that. But it's pretty amazing when it does work. I've done sessions like Bert said with him and Scott, and another band, my bandmate Rick Barry from Anna and the Moderns, who also plays in a couple others. So Rick and Liam Hogue from Sarah Swain, and Paul Roberts from Soul Purpose started doing it, and they've pretty much got it down to a pretty good science. And early on, back in April, I just had thrown together a quick YouTube video on, how to set it up so that you can get going, and it's a lot of people are doing it.
That's great. We have a question from Brian. Is this Jam Kazam the technique that folks like Jimmy Fallon have been using to do Zoom-like concerts with multiple simultaneous musicians? Anybody know, Bert?
I'm not sure
Yeah,
if they've been live or if they've been pre-recorded,
I
which is
see.
something that we've been doing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was going to add to that. You're starting to see a lot of benefit shows. Fallon just comes to mind, where you can picture 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screens, and they all look like they're playing simultaneously.
Right. So, and chances are with that, they're not. So one of the other things that we've been doing in this pandemic is we've been making music videos, and I started doing it myself. And first was just one live, me playing one track live. Then I did it where I double tracked something and I had two videos together. Did something with Scott and Kareem Stanjigi, my drummer, and Lars Johnson, a vibe player, did a video. So we had 4 parts going, and the screens were split. We've got a video coming out hopefully today or this weekend where we've got 10 parts. It's guitar, organ, bass, drums, lead vocal, and 5 backup vocals. And so there's screens all over the place. It's been a lot. One of the things that's happened during this is I think all of us have been learning a lot of new tools. And, I've been learning a lot more about Studio One. Jay turned me on to Studio One. Jay and Scott turned me on to Studio One, which is digital audio workstation software for recording. So I've been becoming a lot more familiar with that. And I never thought I'd like it, but I've become a video editor. And so, I bit the bullet and I bought Final Cut Pro, and I've been editing video, and like this, I said, this last piece, you know, we've got 10 different things happening at once on the screen. So there's been a real learning curve with that, but it's been a great deal of fun. It's one of those things where, oh, I'm going to work on this for an hour after dinner, and all of a sudden it's midnight. So I think this video we have coming out, I've probably got maybe 15 or 16 hours into it for a 4-minute video.
So folks can view the videos that you've done on your website, right? On
Yes.
the COVID-19
Yes,
page?
so my website is bertland.com, BERTLAND.com. So
Yeah, they're great videos. It's fun to watch you perform solo as well as some of your friends. So I think we have another question from Bruce. Bruce, do you want to unmute?
Sure. Yeah, I was just asking if you could say a bit more about what the internet connection requirements are. I'm sure that open Cape style gig fiber would be not a problem, but how about for those of us living in benighted parts of the world, like in Atlanta?
So the you know, none of us have an open Cape fiber connection.
Right.
You know, at this point, open Cape's connectivity is all for business customers. You know, I have a Comcast connection. You know, it's some days it's really good, at least from a download speed standpoint. But if you have a Comcast connection and you're not in an area where, you know, there's a lot of competition for that bandwidth, because the way it works is, you know, like in a neighborhood, Comcast has one node and you're all sharing that bandwidth. You know, I'm lucky. I live with a bunch of retired people around me, and there's no kids on Game Boys or people streaming movies all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if you're in a neighborhood where there's a lot more activity, then you start to see some issues with that. I know that once when Jay and I were playing, Jay was having some latency issues with his connection. So it's something that can happen. But, you know, a typical broadband connection is okay. Typical broadband connection is usually satisfactory.
Thanjust
You know,
Yeah,
I'll just
I'll just add in. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, so my connection is, you know, on a good day, I get 300 megabits down. Some days it's 75 megabits down, but it's still that, you know, asynchronous, you know, 11, 12 megabits up, which is kind of the critical part because you're sending your signal out into the world.
Yeah, there's also applications that are useful, like speed test is the popular one, but there's others that will measure your connection, your internet connection from your home to the provider and quantify it. And then once you have that data, if Comcast in particular, once you have that data, if you want to increase the performance, you can call them, and you will eventually reach a human being if you try hard enough, and then they can really optimize it. It's a pain in the neck, but it really works.
Jay,
Were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, like specific with JamKazam, there's a couple tricks that you can do if you have access to your router. There's some port forwarding that they recommend doing within the router itself. And I found even, like I've done some of the sessions when I have my, you know, one kid's playing on the Game Boy or whatever, and the other one's streaming a movie. And the connection was okay. You know, a lot of times you'll see a red dot in your connection, but everything will still be in sync. So even if the connection's not as good, the important thing is having a wire directly to the router or switch to your computer. But it's can be surprising well, and when it's not, you'll know. And they give you this handy resync button in the session, and everyone can click that as many times as they want, and it usually pulls it back together.
Yes.
Terry?
Well, I think in that I've seen live is a whole nother problem. That's a whole nother ball of wax, but I would think recording is fine most of the time with the broadband connectivity that we have here on the Cape. So I think that would probably if you're willing to do it and do it at maybe some off times, you're going to be much better in terms of the recording. But, you know, I think that's what you have to fight with. If you're going to do it, if you want to do something live, that's always problematic, you know, and as we find out, right, Jay? So we can do that.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
want to throw one other thing in there too, because I love the recordings that people are doing, but can we talk about how you guys are going to monetize some of this recording? Because I think that this is something we discuss it all the time, and we've yet to find the definitive answer on what local musicians can do to monetize their content. Got any
What do you think,
good ideas, Bert?
Just even Terry, even before the pandemic, we had issues on how we monetize our content because
Absolutely.
Going out and playing gigs where, you know, I'm when I do a show at the Red Inn or at Harvest, I'm getting paid what I was getting paid in 1985.
That sucks.
And I was 7, by the way. But you know, so you've seen, if you're on social media, you'll see, you know, especially a lot of solo performers are doing shows in their living room through Facebook Live or the streaming services, and they'll have like a Venmo link in their description, so you can drop something in the tip jar. I've done that a couple times where I've dropped something in the tip jar, and I actually just set up my own Venmo account. It's like, so, you know, Mr. Technology here is finally catching up on that. So, you know, Scott was actually giving me grief on this video that we just did. I put a Venmo link at the end of the video. So if anybody watches the video and you want to drop something in there, you know, we would appreciate it. You know, between Scott and myself, you know, we probably have 25 or 30 hours into putting this together. You know, Kareem's got a few hours into putting the drum parts together. So, you know, it's a lot of work that goes into that. And I mean, we're doing it for love for sure. But, you know, we are also, you know, we're professional musicians and we are losing income. And some musicians qualify for some of the unemployment packages, but like if you already have a job and you've lost a part-time job, it doesn't work quite the same way. So, you know, not all of us are eligible for that. So, you know, we're just taking the hit. And I also want to mention, as part of that, the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod had an event about 5 weeks ago, maybe, Jay. It was called Home is Where the Art Is, and it was a 3-day event with performers. I think there were 13 performers over 3 days, and everybody was streaming something. A lot of solo performers. I actually used a platform called OBS Studio, which is it's a streaming platform that allows you to stream from multiple sources. So this allowed me to play live, switch over and play a video from my computer, switch over and play some audio from my computer. You know, if you had multiple cameras set up, I think there's a way to do that. So that's another way of streaming that. So, but the purpose of this was to raise money for the Arts Foundation's Artist Relief Fund. So they have a fund that is there for artists who have lost money as a result of the pandemic, and they can apply to, you know, receive some compensation from that.
Yeah, that was wonderful, and they put that fund together so quickly.
Yes, I think they raised $15,000-$16,000 over the 3 days.
That's substantial. Back to Wi-Fi, Brian. I think you had one comment that you wanted to make. Want to unmute?
No, I'm here. Yeah, I was just in the discussion about the Wi-Fi. I was just curious as to what people thought about this new mesh technology, because I am in the process of installing it in my home office because I get terrible reception being far from my router.
It's phenomenal. Do it. You'll love it.
Yeah, I'm going to go. What do you think about Orbi versus Eero? I think I'm leaning towards Orbi.
I think they're pretty similar. I went with Google's. You have better reporting than the other two, but they're all very similar. The technology is pretty standardized. But the real advantage too is coverage. Um, with a mesh network, there's two big advantages. One is scale, because you can easily add another router and expand your coverage. But the other one is really you can tailor it really to cover your whole home in your yard or whatever. It's easy to install. The reporting is great. It's a pain in the neck to have, 3 little routers or whatever, however many you put in the house, 3 more electronic devices to, plug in and manage, but you forget about them after a while. But if you put that in, a week from now, you'll forget all the problems that you had with the traditional single router solution.
I can't wait. Thank you.
Great.
Jen also I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. One other big advantage, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The one other big advantage is if you have a problem device on your network that's sucking it all up, like whatever, kids games or whatever. If you are having bandwidth issues, you can prioritize the devices so that only 1 or 2 or whatever consume all the bandwidth during peak periods, so that you're not having anybody else who's on your network competing with you for that bandwidth.
Okay, I'll look forward to that when my kids come to stay during the summertime.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, Jen just added a link into chat as far as a place that small businesses and sole proprietors can apply and receive grants up to $1,000. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, I met someone yesterday that applied for it and said it was super easy. And, as long as you're a 1099 type of person and, don't have like a
Well, that's good.
salaried. So I'm going to check it out for my fiance because he owns his own business. And I heard it was really easy to get.
That's great. Now, I know you're not a fortune teller, Bert, but what do you see happening on the music scene on Cape Cod in the foreseeable future? And perhaps, if you're willing, talk a little bit further out in time.
So I think it's going to be messy. I spent a lot of time the other day. The Red Inn approached me and they said, well, what if we played outside? And I said, well, I don't think we can play outside. So I reached out to the town of Provincetown and had an email exchange with the health director in Provincetown. And she said that you can't do live entertainment inside or outside in this phase. And she says, and that's statewide. And I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of places in Hyannis that have music outside, and other places as well. So I'm not sure that's right. I asked her could you cite where you saw that, where you got that information from the state? And she kind of gave me the brush off. She said it's a labyrinth on the state website. She says it's as much of a pain for me as it is for you. So she wasn't really very helpful.
There's a page for that, Bert. We find it.
I've found lots of information on the website, and there's information about like venues. Like, so one of my roles is I'm the board president for Wellesley Preservation Hall, and we have multiple concerts throughout the course of the year. Right now, the building is closed. I'm also on the board of the Cultural Center at Cape Cod. And, right now the building is closed. We're talking about opening. And in fact, we're going to have, at the Cultural Center, we're going to have our first concert on July 26th inside the building. We've got everything measured out for social distancing. And, so as opposed to having 150 people in the room, we're going to have 32 to 40. But again, that's something that's specific. I haven't been able to find anything about a band playing in a bar or a restaurant, on the state website. So that's a little bit confusing. There's some real concerns about, the health risks for this, because singing is one of the, is a very high vector transmission for the virus. And, you can't really sing with a mask on. So if you've got people who are singing, they're projecting out a lot. Another issue is that even if you have an instrumental band, like a jazz band playing somewhere, it's increasing the volume of the venue, and everybody else who's there is talking a lot more loudly, which again is projecting more air and particulates out into the area. So there are some real concerns about that.
My friend's daughter, they live in California. She's 21. She went out like a week ago with 5 friends. So there were 6 of them, and they did karaoke. All 6 of the women got COVID-19.
Wow.
Probably got it from the microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or one of them had it and they're singing and they're in one of those like pods of karaoke pods or whatever they do. I don't know.
So
There
I,
was,
I think in terms of, being a fortune teller, we're all trying to be fortune tellers about this whole thing on a more grand scale, in terms of what's going to be happening. But, people are trying things out musically. I think a lot's going to depend on, we're starting to see some spikes in various areas around the country. And does that mean that things are going to, are we going to spike and have to shut things back down again? So I don't know. I mean, honestly, for myself, as much as I would love to go out and play, I'm not eager to right now. Um, I've got bandmates who are in more high risk categories, and I certainly don't want to ask them to go out and put themselves at risk. And so I think we need to be patient and careful about this. Um, I think that like in many instances, you're going to see things evolve. I was talking with Kareem, my drummer, this morning, and he and I were both saying that we're really kind of enjoying this quiet summer. It's like, we're not, it's like, I don't have to get up early on a Sunday to go to Provincetown. And, it's like we're having a summer like normal people have. And it's kind of nice. And it's been also nice to work on projects. So as opposed to having to prepare and say, okay, we're going to go play a 3-hour gig and play 30 songs. And then 3 days later, we're going to go play another 3-hour gig and play the same 30 songs more or less. Now we're focusing on one thing and we're really refining it and really being able to work on it. So it's a different lens on playing music, and it's been really enjoyable.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
And I think also going back to the monetization thing is that you're going to see musicians who are technology capable be able to leverage things like YouTube and put things on YouTube, because you can monetize your YouTube channel, and if you're wonderful and you get some a volume of views, and you're starting to actually get some income out of that. There's some groups online that have done well. There's a group called Scary Pockets, they're a lot of fun to watch online. There's another one. There's a bossa nova group called Nova, and they're wonderful, and you can see the evolution of their videos. Each one is getting a little bit more slick, as they're learning about the technologies as well.
Right.
So,
I noticed, I'm sorry.
just say, so bands like that are able to embrace the technology are probably the ones who are going to do better. And unfortunately, like in all things in our society, there's a digital divide. So there are musicians out there who are wonderful musicians, but they have that mental block when it comes to technology, and they're not going to be able to do it, and they're going to get left behind.
Yeah, I agree. Brian, I noticed in your profile pic, you had a Grateful Dead hat on, and I've been following on Facebook Josh Daniels. I don't know if you found that yet. He's doing every evening at 5. He sits on the front porch and just plays Grateful Dead.
wow, you have to
Yes.
send me a link to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
Melissa Etheridge was doing that early on too.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, every night at like 6 for quite a while.
Yeah. I think he's on day 101 as far as doing his porch concerts. So it is fun because, I'm sure you all agree that music is really good for the psyche.
Yeah, and I would also interject with the bands playing out and the regular gigs at bars and restaurants and stuff. I would imagine because they can only have a limited capacity in their own seating arrangements and whatnot, so their revenue's down a bit. So it's harder to, bring a 5-piece band in, and regardless of if they did the distance, they might not be able to afford to do that. The return might not be as good, and they're still limited to the amount of people that go to it. And also with the local things like Woods Hole Film Festival, we're doing that all online this year. So the what music we will have is either going to be streamed live or possibly pre-recorded. and we're doing less of that because there's no venue.
So, I mean, Jay, one thing to consider, like the Wellfleet Harbor Actors Theater is doing a fundraiser in July, virtually online, for Lower Cape Outreach, and Lower Cape Outreach provides fuel assistance and other things for people in the Lower Cape. And they've asked people to participate in that, either by doing like a live stream, sort of similar to the Arts Foundation thing. So I said, well, I mean, because I have limited bandwidth myself, I said, you're welcome to run a couple of the videos that we've produced on the channel, and as part of that entertainment. And so they're going to do that. And if the film festival wants to do that, I'd be happy
That's
to.
a great idea.
Provide
It is a good idea.
as well.
It is a good idea. Alden, did you have a question you want to unmute?
There we go. Okay. Yeah, Bert, this is kind of a vague thought, but in advertising, you'll see sort of cooperative advertising where maybe a couple people or a couple groups will share the cost of an ad. I mean, is there anything going on in the music world? I mean, in some ways it's background music anyway, to combine with somebody else to put out a for-pay, whether it's on YouTube or whatever, I don't know, but something to combine with other folks so there's added value.
You mean like a pay-per-view type thing?
Well, yeah, or even a, kind of a commercial version of Farm Aid or something like that. But maybe smaller, of course.
It could be like an online music festival, and you buy a ticket.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Jay, let's work on that.
Yeah, where there might not be a big enough pull for one group, there might be if you get together.
Right.
We could call it Band-Aid.
I think we've had that before. Just rip it off quick, Mark. Yes, and Bruce, I see your note. Yeah, Dave Eisenberg has been doing a lot of things down in from his pool of folks from Woods Hole. He has a great. Have you been to his house concerts?
Not in person, no, but I've been to his house concerts through this mechanism a few times now.
Yeah, he's got a real great thing going on down there. He brings.
Yeah, he's had some great concerts. Howard Alden and Rossano Sportiello and Choto Dastes. So Tuesday evenings, it's a nice way to unwind and relax and see inside. They're obviously doing it from one location, so there's no latency issues. So it's been fun.
One of my pals up in Provincetown, John Richardson, he's been doing a virtual piano bar like at 5:30 almost every day. And he's a hilarious guy. He's a very funny performer, and knows a million songs, takes requests. It's just like a piano bar, except it's virtual, and he's got the little Venmo or PayPal tip jar out there, so you can do it.
Do it on Zoom or?
He just does it on Facebook Live.
Okay.
You just follow him on Facebook, and you'll get the notification when stuff goes live. So the thing that we're doing for the Arts Foundation on July 12th, that'll also be on Facebook Live. So you can go to the Arts Foundation's Facebook page or my music Facebook page, Bert Jackson Music, and you'll be able to see the stream there.
They're going to do that YouTube also?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of up to us. We could do it YouTube. Maybe we should
restream it across everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of concerts that are booked. I noticed the TD Bank series that you're talking about, Bert. They have 19 bands booked, and the Wellfleet Recreation Department has this Mayo Summer Concert Series, and they've got like 15 or 16 bands booked, and they're going to do them all virtual. But the question is, some know how to do it, and some are bigger bands that are going to require it. I don't know if they're expecting us to do it, but I don't know how we can do 42, bands in the next 2 months.
No, I don't.
That's a tough thing.
I thought for the Arts Foundation and the TD Bank series, that they were cutting. Well, maybe that is half. Maybe they do 38 during the course of the summer, and they cut it back to 19.
No,
Uh,
but
but
well, they got 19. They got 19 booked between Sunday and Wednesday, and then Wellfleet has
that's with you, Terry.
15 booked. Yes,
Okay.
and they have 15 booked in, through the summer from like July 10th to August 21st. Problem is I know like Wellfleet's got how many musicians in the Dirty Water dance band? There's like 7 or 8 in that, right? Yeah, those big bands. I don't know how we can do that. And there's a thing called Big Jazz. I don't know. I've never even heard of them, but.
So let me interject a quick sec, Terry. Is one of the partnerships that Terry's talking about is and Bert had mentioned between Arts Foundation doing the TV series and the Cape Cod Media Center. I've been Arts Foundation had brought me in to help consult with everyone about it, and it's basically musicians that were having a hard time deciding or figuring out if they could actually provide a live stream to their Facebook page. And one of the partner things we decided to try was offering the studio at the Cape Cod Media Center, excuse me, to provide the ability to do that if people did not have the ability to do that. So there's a lot of people that actually don't require it because they're streaming regularly from home, such as Kim Moberg, Kathleen Healy, and some other people like that don't need it, so they can do it at home. So the Media Center is really providing the means to do it if they so choose to. Outside of those 18, 19 shows with the Arts Foundation, it's really up to other bands to figure out a way to do it. And the larger the band is tougher because you don't want to have 5 to 8 people on stage, not doing the distance. So it's managing to have them set up 6 feet apart and do that. So so it's kosher, so to speak. So when it's larger groups, then consideration is for performing it outside if they don't have an indoor situation.
Well, it sounds like you musicians on the Cape have been creative in figuring out what to do and how to transition to this new world, the electronic world of performing.
I think we followed the trends that so many have. I mean, it's been a real forced adaptation that's happened across all sectors of society.
Yeah.
Whether it's telemedicine or take orders to go from your favorite restaurant. We've all had to adapt, and we're one sector that is trying to adapt as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Go ahead, Kate.
I was just going to ask if Bert could provide to us how we're able to watch your Sunday brunch series that's coming up.
I actually shared it in the chat. I shared the link to the Facebook invitation.
Oh, great.
So I think even if you're not on Facebook, you can get the details there, but I think you're viewing it on Facebook, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Kate, for moderating, and Bert, thank you for everything you do for the music sector here on the Cape, and we appreciate your dedication to the arts. And we also appreciate you as our executive director too. Yes, so thanks for being here today. So check us out Friday, July 10th for our first Friday, correct?
It's actually July 9th.
July 9th. It's a Thursday. It's our first Friday on the second Thursday.
Neither first nor Friday.
Neither first nor Friday. And that is actually on telemedicine. So that promises to be a really good presentation. Yep. So
our speaker is Dr. Joe Cabater. He spoke about telemedicine in February for us. And who knew that this was going to be such a huge thing over the next few months. So he's going to talk about how the pandemic has really pushed and changed the telemedicine industry. He's the incoming president. He might be now president of the American Telemedicine Association. He's testified before Congress about this. He's the real deal. He's a great speaker.
Yes.
You can raise the price of that one.
Well, we're actually charging for First Friday for the first time virtually. You know,
Oh, you did $5 last time.
I think you've already paid for this one, Eldon. This is the first
Oh,
we're charging for. We already have your money.
okay.
So $5 for members, $10 for non-members. So look forward to
Thank
seeing
you, everyone. It was great to see you all. Have a good weekend. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks, Bert.